Hi guys, this is Landon again, coming to you for another video. And today I just want to talk to you about how I use an iPad for worship ministry. I do several different things in worship ministry. At my church, my wife and I were over the music. And I also help with some of the tech areas from time to time. But I also go out and help other churches with tech and ministry, and I do preach as well. So I use this iPad for a whole lot, and I've had some conversations with some people of late of, should I try using an iPad? Is it worth it? The money? And so I just wanted to kind of go through some of the apps and some of the things I use an iPad for. I do have a MacBook Pro as well that I do use at home. But when I travel and when I'm gone and when I go to the church, I don't really ever take that MacBook Pro with me. I actually just leave it at the house and use it at the house to work on. I used to back in the day take a MacBook with me, but it's just a risk for it to get broken and messed up, and it's kind of not the easiest to use mobily sometimes, where an iPad with a case with a little stand on the back just does crazy, makes it a lot more efficient and easy. But so I just want to get into how do I use my iPad for everyday life, worship ministry, and everything. So first and foremost, it's important to get right off the bat is Bibles. I use the YouVersion Bible here for my daily reading plan. I do sometimes I'll do several plans a year. This one I'm just doing one for the year. I like YouVersion, excuse me, because not only does it have the Bible and a plan, but you can have the option of it reading it to you. And so I like to listen to the Bible a lot as well, besides just reading it. For me personally, I tend to skim over and read really fast when I do it with my eyes, but when I listen to it, it's at their pace, so I have to just sit there and listen. So I like the YouVersion Bible. I also use the Accordance. This is the Bible app that I use to study with. It has great search features and functionality. There's a little bit of a learning curve with it, but a lot of great features to search and amplify words and stuff like that through the Bible. But also, if you hold down a word, like let's do wonderfully. Oh, wonderfully is not a good one. Fearfully. There we go. You see at the bottom, it does Greek and Hebrew definitions. You can search and amplify either the word or the key number. So great app here that I use for the Bible to study with, and which is important. Another thing is church management. We use faith teams at our church. I know a lot of people in music ministry do more than just music with the church. But here's the faith teams apps we use. We can do scheduling, check-ins, ask volunteer availability. You can even, in our app, we can do group text messages, stuff like that. Giving, I strictly give online using the app. So again, wherever I'm at, I can go ahead and give if I want to. But doing church management stuff as well on my iPad using faith teams. That's what we use. Of course, for me, a huge thing is our music library. And that's OnSong. We use OnSong app for our songs. And you can see here's Great Are You, Lord. That was Stones earlier. We'll create sets on here. We will beam them to all the musicians, worship leaders, and they will all have it and what key we're doing it and the order that we're doing it. And they can, of course, just, go back and forth from it. So we use OnSong. So, when I'm out playing, I can share the songs with others. At the very least, I have my entire library there for us to go through and choose songs from. Another thing I use greatly, personally in my life, but also we use at our church, is cloud storage. And of course, that can be accessed through here. Here's Google Drive. This is our music account, but we have our church account as well. But I use Google Drive. I'll use Dropbox. I use OneDrive. Our church actually pays for a Google Drive account, so for extended storage. But online cloud storage is a huge deal. That way I don't have to take a hard drive everywhere where I'm going. I save all my stuff, on the cloud online, so that I can access it from any device wherever I'm at. Even if I don't have my phone or my iPad or computer for whatever reason, I can log on to another computer and still access my content that I need. So it's huge for me to be able to store stuff and have access to it when I want. But also, it's great to share, especially when you're doing videos, bigger media. It's instead of trying to transfer everything to devices, which I will say, if you don't take advantage of AirDrop with iOS devices, Apple devices, you should. I was actually surprised and shocked at how many people don't use AirDrop for media, like images and videos, especially videos, because it actually is quite fast to go from device to device. On Thursday nights, my wife and I help do music at a church plant, and we don't have a camera. We use a phone right now, but we will use someone's phone and record in either 4K or 1080p. We have an special app to do that, but we will use AirDrop to drop that video to the person's phone or his MacBook that's going to do the editing, and it's within minutes that these several gig sized files will drop right over. So totally recommend AirDrop if you don't use it already. But if AirDrop isn't something that you can do, if you don't have a device there, then pushing and uploading that to a online storage cloud like Google Drive is a great option. They can then go back wherever they are. You could be at one place, you upload a video, they can go on their side, they just say it's ready, and they just go ahead and download it and do the editing. So it's a great option, cloud storage is. Another thing I use, and starting to use even more, is, and it's Apple specific, and that is Garageband. You see in the top right. GarageBand is, of course, a recording app. You can use it for a lot of different things, though. It has a metronome built in, so if you want to practice a song and you want to practice with a metronome, you can just open up, GarageBand, set your tempo, and just kick it off and start practicing, and you have a built-in metronome. Also, you can throw if for very simple, like you want to edit loops, maybe just the speed of the loop, you can throw that in there and you can change the speed of the file. But also you can full-blown record. You can hook up, I think, the most I think I've ever done is 24 channels in here at once. But multi-track recording, you can do that in GarageBand, all on the iPad. And I have a board that does 10 tracks that I will go around, but you can hook this up. Theoretically, I haven't done it yet, but to the X32 Behringer X32 board and record multi-track recording on it. So doing recording, whether it be for other people or something I'm writing and I'm working on that I want you to be able to listen to and critique it, or tracks, backup tracks or something like that. So I have GarageBand here that I use. Another huge thing about the iPad that I use all the time, both in personal life and with church, is the Office products. And you can use Apple's Office, you can use Microsoft Office. I tend to use Microsoft Office a little bit more because I do so much with that at work and personally and church. And also my wife tends to know Microsoft a little bit better, so I will drop her all of those files that she can work with as well, quite easy. But I just want to go highlight some of the main things and why I use them. One of the biggest apps that I spend the most time in Microsoft Office is probably OneNote. OneNote's right here. And I have a bunch of different folders and tabs, as you can see, and basically I will create notes. I have meeting notes from when we met at church. I have notes for new ideas, notes for projects. I have my messages that I've created over time, and I can organize them. Totally recommend OneNote for any type of notes, and it's great organization. You can create folders and tabs and move notes wherever you want them, and it has a great search feature. So if you want, like, for instance, in messages, I may have used a scripture and said something that I really liked about that, and I can't remember what I said, wrote down or whatever. I can go search that scripture, and it'll show me every note, sermon message, everything that I've ever used in OneNote, every page that is mentioned on, and I can kind of go back and research and see some of the things. So I love OneNote for project planning, meeting notes, message notes, all of that. I also use PowerPoint from time to time, whether it's helping out with our announcement slides. We have a great media tech team, social media management team at our church that handles most of that. But from time to time, I will help them or have something for them that I will use PowerPoint for. Sometimes when I preach out, just to make it simple, I'll do a PowerPoint, that has all the verses, title slide, all that in there, and use that. But a lot of times what I typically use PowerPoint for nowadays is that I will actually use it for its animations, both text and objects. I will create little animations in PowerPoint on the go. It's easier and quicker to do, and I'll do that real quick, export it as a movie, and then put that in the video that I'm editing for animations. Because sometimes some of the animations and doing that manually can be quite time consuming and complex. Where if it's something simple, I can do that in PowerPoint real quick in a matter of minutes and have it already into a video file that I can drop in while I'm editing. So that's a little tip and trick for video editors out there, new editors out there that are just trying to get work on video. You can use PowerPoint for video animation. You can use the Keynote for Apple as well. Sometimes they have a little bit of different variations on the animations. I may like one over the other, but you can both move them into a video format and then add it to your video. So that's a little cool trick. So I use PowerPoint. Another thing I use all the time, especially for work, is Teams. If you don't use Teams yet, you should. We have at our church as you see, Teams is in the next to the top right of Outlook. Of course, I have email and text messages on here too that I use as well. So that's kind of a given. But Teams is great. If you don't use that for your church, I highly recommend it. It is a great tool for engaging and organizing your teams and your ministry teams within your ministry teams or within your church leadership. It's a great tool. We use it. We have every ministry basically can have their own team group. So, like for instance, worship ministry, we have our own team group. I may make a sub team group for just the musicians. My wife may do one for just the singers, but right now we just have one group for all the musicians and singers, the worship team. We have a leadership team group that's all the church leadership, and we go back and forth with ideas. We'll go back and forth in this group chat in Teams with this upcoming events, scheduling, updates. It's a good way just to get that out to everybody without blowing up the text, or make sure you have the right text number. They'll get the notification and they can look at it. Also, it's a great way to share documents. We do share most of our stuff on like Google Drive or stuff like that, online storage, and we'll post the link in there and then go back and they can search out the words and say, oh, it's right there. But you can share documents directly in Teams, and it will organize it for you and kind of hold it in the library for that group. So it's really good for that as well. But the thing I love about it probably the most is the meetings. You can schedule meetings and create and send an invite out to your team, and they can accept it. You can see who's accepted the invite. You can have it. They'll all have it on their calendar, and they'll be reminded about it. So, hey, there's no excuse. You can't have forgotten because it's on your device, right? You got the reminder. So we use that for meeting, and you could do both like call-in meetings, audible-only meetings online, or you can do video meetings, however you want. And unlike Zoom, there's no time limit. It's however long you schedule the meeting, and you can go over. Whoever's running the meeting can go over. So I like that a lot better than kind of Zoom. So we use Teams a lot for our church. I do use Word from time to time, not quite as much anymore because most of my stuff is in notes. And then if I do a graphic or anything like that, I'm doing something different, which I'll talk about in a minute. But I do use Excel though. I use Excel quite a bit. For some things that's not Service Planner, and I'll be honest with you, our church, we're still transitioning everything over to Service Planning and Church Management into the app. We're not all the way there yet. So there are some spreadsheets we have with schedules still on there for different ministries and whatnot, and but I use it a lot for budgeting. And we may not like to talk about all the money in the budgeting a lot. We use it for personally, in my wife and I's life, we do different spreadsheets for projects, money wise that we want to do. But the main thing I use it for in worship ministry is to do for equipment upgrades and phases. We'll do many different phases that'll get us to exactly where we want in our church, and I'll have created spreadsheets that is shared out to everybody. That kind of shows what our priorities are, how much the cost, where you can get it from, so that whoever's doing the ordering, whether it be our pastor or his wife that works at the church, they'll know exactly where to go, what to buy. And I do the same thing for some other churches. They'll have me come out to their church because they want some recommendations on maybe audio stuff that needs to be changed or upgraded and updated. And I'll give them a bunch of different options based on price and quality and what they want to do. And I'll have a bunch of tabs, and I'll have all the figures in there, the links, and then adding everything up and doing all the math for them. So I do spreadsheets a lot, and I do it all here on my iPad. I do have a Bluetooth keyboard that helps with a lot of that typing from the notes and stuff like that. But man, it's so convenient having everything right here. And I'll talk more about that convenience again at the end. But besides Office, I do all my video editing. Mostly, I say all. Most of my video editing I do on my iPad using LumaFusion. Great app. Great video production app. It does green screen, motion text. You can insert After Effects stuff into here. It does a lot. I would consider this a pro version ready app. It does multi-layering video, so you can layer videos and scenes and audio tracks all on top of each other. It's not one streamlined straight, where you have one line to work with. You can have tons of lines, tons of features. There's a great online community for it to support the app, as well as to supply effects and other things that people have created. They'll give it out there for you. So it's a great app, and it's like $30, $40, I think, that I bought it one time, and it does all of that for your iPad. And here's another cool feature of LumaFusion is that the LumaFusion iPad app works on my MacBook. So, MacBook has the App Store and the apps, and not every app that you can have on your phone or iPad will work on the MacBook, but LumaFusion is one that does. So does OnSong, and a bunch, and some of my music apps for piano work as well. So that's really kind of cool, is that a lot of apps are starting to translate over to MacBook, especially for video editing. So I'm only paid I think I paid $39, $39.99 for LumaFusion when I bought it. I don't know what it currently costs, but when I bought it, it was $39.99, and man, it's awesome. And I can work on it from my MacBook, or I can work from it on my iPad, and I can take a project from one and send it to the other and finish it on the other if I want. So very, very cool. Love LumaFusion. But I can do video editing right here on my iPad. Another thing I use at our church and a couple other churches that I go to help from time to time with audio stuff is sound mixing apps. So like X32 Mix, M32 Mix. Those are a couple apps that I'll connect to. For sure, I know they work, but with the Behringer X32 boards, I believe there are a couple other boards that the M32 mixes also compatible with. Midas, I think, is one. I'm not 100% sure, but these are awesome, especially for our church, to be able to walk around, mix, remotely instead of staying right at the board. I can go upstage and hear the stage monitors mix. If someone needs something tweaked in their in-ears, mix it right here from the iPad. And what we do at our church, I think is pretty cool, is every music station has a Amazon Fire tablet. This is just a little tip and trick here. I will be doing another video about this later, about in-ears and a cheap way to kind of do it and a mobile way to do it. Well, anyways, since we have a digital board, so everybody have iPads, we just gave them an Amazon Fire tablet, and they can also mix on there as well. But I have that here on my app, on my iPad, so I could do so much. Another thing is, and I actually don't have the app on this iPad because we have an iPad specifically at our church. But if I was to do it more often, I would have it on here, and that's Luminaire. That's a lighting software app that we use at our church to control all of our lights. We have an iPad. The church has its own account, so that's why I don't have it on here. But it's a lighting app. We control all of our lights and scenes and all of that from the iPad there. I don't have it on my iPad because I didn't buy it yet, at least. But it's a great option if you have a need to do stuff like that. Luminaire is a great option for that. Of course, if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I like piano sound engines and piano apps. Every Sunday, I play with, right now, MK Sensation X. I play with some sounds backing up the sounds that I have on my piano. And the reason why I do that, I have a Yamaha Mod X, which is a great piano. Totally recommend it if you're looking for a new piano. It's about $2,000-ish, depending on where you get it. Yamaha Mod X. It's got the same engine as the Montage. It's just not quite as expensive. You are limited to 4 faders that you have to kind of switch back and forth for sounds. And I like tweaking sounds on the fly a lot. And you can download more sounds onto it. So it has a lot of, versatility. However, the reason why I use the iPad and the apps on here is because I can go home and do lots of tweaking and programming at home and not have to, go into the church and do it. And if you haven't seen my MK Sensation X video, you should totally look at it, watch it. It's got really cool features in it. But I do a lot of tweaking at home. And then I'll come and I have these sounds. I just hook them up and play along with via MIDI connection with the sounds I already use on the keys. I don't live like 10 minutes to the church. So if we go to the church, it's a 35-minute drive. So that's at least a minimum hour 10 commitment just in driving. And so if I wanted to tweak a sound for 10, 15 minutes, it's not always convenient to just drive that long and tweak a couple of things and come back. And I have a 2-year-old daughter, so it's not always easy to stay late after church because she's wanting nap or get there early. So it helps me be able to have a lot of cool features using sounds from my iPad, tweaking at home, working on things that will complement when I get there. Another reason why I love to do it and have sound engines to play with me is because on Thursday nights, I've said before, we help out with music at a church plant. And we have to go in and set up and tear down every service. So I bring a $200 Yamaha piano keyboard. It's 76 keys. It literally was $200 on Amazon. It was $199.99. It has a decent piano sound, but the rest of the sounds aren't that great. It can only layer, one extra sound on it, and the control of that layering, you have to go in and program it, so it's not easily accessible. And so what I end up doing is not even using any of the sounds for that keyboard. I'll keep it as a backup in case something happens, technically wise, but I use all the sounds from my iPad. So if you ever watch any of our services, you come to that service, it's coming, all the sounds you hear are coming just from the iPad. And it sounds pretty good. So, and of course, when I travel out, most of the time I just play whatever piano's there, whatever that. But if there's something big we're doing, if we're doing a choir clinic or something like that, I have my sounds with me. And I have the connectors that use either the old pin MIDI or, a USB MIDI. So I can connect this to any piano that has MIDI capabilities whatsoever and use my sounds as well, if need be. So So far, I've done a lot with the iPad, and I'm still not done. Another thing is loops and tracks. To be honest, my church we use some, but we don't use it all the time as consistent. We're working more on it, and getting people used to the idea of using loops and tracks. But we have several different churches that we go to that will ask for recommendations or training or demos, and so I'll demos this because they want to add more to their music team. Or I have some churches that I've worked for with sound stuff that unfortunately don't even have a music team right now, and so these help give them the music while they sing over it. Another thing I use this for, or at least some of this, is to learn the songs. Sometimes if I have the tracks, I'll just play with it to learn it. Or I'll use this app on the bottom right called Slow Down Music Player, I think is what it's called. It's a pretty cool app. Slow Down Music Player, yes. Very cool app. Totally recommend this for every musician at your church. The app itself is free, I believe. And all you have to do is any song you want to use in it, you have to actually buy it. So I use Apple subscription for music. So another thing, I can listen to all my music. I want to do all my playlists on the iPad, of course. But that does not allow you to play that song in here because you don't actually own it. So you have to actually go buy the song if you want to use it. Whether it's 99 cents, $1.99, whatever it might be. But once you own it, you can put it in here. You can loop sections of it. You can speed it up, slow it down, as it says. So sometimes those tricky parts that you really have to get the chops down, the run, whatever it might be, you can slow it down. But the cool thing also for it is you can change the pitch. So maybe your church does it, slightly different key. It's like half step, a whole step down or up than the original key because the singer that's singing it, is different. In our church, we have a few different worship leaders and their ranges are all kind of different. So, sometimes, we'll have to change. If they're going to do the solo on the song, we'll change the key then from its original. And when I give it out to the musicians, I recommend them using this app to learn it so they can play it in the key. And I'll tell them how many semitones to change it because that's the key we're going to do it. But anyways, again, another way for me to do worship ministry on my iPad. I mentioned it briefly before about photo editing. I don't use it a whole lot anymore. I don't do a lot of editing anymore because we have, again, a great team at our church that does all of that. But there are times when I need to do some stuff personally for me, or a message slide or something when I'm going out. And I used to be a big Photoshop guy and only did stuff in Photoshop and spent lots of time learning it, only for an app like Canva to come out. And if you don't use Canva, totally recommend you using it, especially if you want to get some quick, really good graphics out. You can do it on Canva. It has a lot of backdrops. You can pay and subscribe for more features. But, I a lot of times I need quick stuff. And you can take your own photos that you've made and created, import them into Canva, throw text on them, begin to kind of edit some stuff and make your postcards, your posters, your flyers, your message slates, all that stuff. You do it very quickly in Canva, and so I use it all the time. Whenever I have to make a graphic, I'm pretty much doing it in Canva, and of course Canva's online, so you can do it. You can do it using the website from any computer. You can download the app on your MacBook, and when you save it, it's accessible from every device automatically. So, love Canva. Another thing from the iPad is social media management. There's so many tools, and I'm not going to kind of go into all of them, but there's so many tools and apps where you can schedule tweets and posts for Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff where you can schedule stuff out for your church and ministry. Because I, again, know that in music ministry, a lot of times the people that are involved in music ministry, music is not the only thing you do. You help out other things in the church, which is great, which we all should do, and I do myself. So if you do social media management, again, we have a team at our church that does it, and the main girl that does it at our church is phenomenal. But if you have to do any of the scheduling or updates, of course, you can do it all from the iPad. And another thing is YouTube Studio. So if you have a church YouTube account where you post your videos for people to go watch, and then you link it back on your sites or whatnot, or you stream from YouTube, You can do YouTube Studio on your iPad and do a lot of cool tweaks on it, putting tags on it, and scheduling video releases. If you're getting and wanting to get more into video work, again, iPad would be great, especially for your church YouTube channel, to kind of grow it and put mini series out there, small testimonies, all that kind of stuff. You can go to YouTube Studio and schedule it out. You can do that regularly when you post on YouTube as well. You can schedule it out, but there's a lot more options on YouTube Studio with not just scheduling, but tags and things you can do on it. So anyways, there's a full arsenal of tools for social media management and to help, kind of market your church that you can do from your iPad. And last but not least is books, digital books. I'm trying to read more, and I have iBooks, Kindle, Nook here for digital books that I've purchased that I can read here. But just kind of to sum this up, and I know this video is kind of long, and you may not, and if you stayed this long, wow, props to you. But I just kind of want to show you what I use my iPad for, and because I've had people question, is it worth it? And for me, it is just so much easier to carry around and to put in a good protective case and to not have to worry about damage. A screen protector, I've got it the works, and it just fits easily into a backpack with a lot of other tech stuff that I take with me. But it does everything, everything that I need. And sometimes not every app that I like to use is available on the MacBook Pro. And there is definitely not always an alternative for like Windows if you don't have a MacBook. And the alternatives that you would use are sometimes a lot more expensive. So from a money saving standpoint, an iPad is cheaper than a MacBook Pro. And the apps and stuff that I tend to use are much cheaper than the other versions. And I still get really, really good quality. And I have everything here. I have my music I listen to, my books that I read, my Bibles, my notes, pretty much everything that I need to do at home or away is right here on this tablet. So I highly recommend, if you're thinking about using iPad for worship ministry, that you take the leap. If it's in between that and a laptop like a MacBook Pro, unless you're doing intense studio recordings, and you're a full-time, graphic developer or a graphic designer and video editor, I would totally recommend going the iPad route for you. I hope this helps somebody. I hope some of these apps maybe, are something that you can look into using and integrating for yourself. But thank you for staying this far. Thank you for listening. And I hope you have a great day.